billions. And Amone says that by 2027, it could be $100 billion, to train and fine tune one of these things. And of course, that's only some of the cost. You then have to operate. It's very, energy intensive. It's very, it takes a lot of capital just to answer the queries and all that. In fact, one of the startups I talked to for the book, they had to cut back their product. They had to stop spreading the word because it was too expensive. They didn't have enough cash to operate. It's an amazing model, but they had too many users and they were going to go bankrupt and stuff. So, it's a very expensive thing. And how does a startup raise $100 billion? I mean, you give away a piece of yourself for that, that first tranche, the C, the A, the B, the C. Eventually, there's not that much more to give away. So, playing it out, OpenAI is remarkable. They have a $300 billion plus valuation. They've raised, tens of billions of dollars. But what happens when you get to the hundreds of billions? So I'm not ready to count them out, but I do wonder if it's inevitable that an Anthropic or an OpenAI has to merge. They have to be acquired by a giant. But I have no idea. I'm just sort of kind of playing it out in my head, and I do think that it's harder to be a startup if you want to do something foundational. Anthropic and OpenAI, Runway here in New York City, a startup I spent some time with for the book. They do text to video, they do AI video. They have clients in Hollywood. They're very, they have revenue. They're doing very, very well. So there are a few that are doing it, but they're now up against Google and OpenAI, both of which have their very impressive text to video models, and other companies. And I just don't know how it plays out. It's just, all I know is I went looking for the next Google, the next Meta, and I fear, not sure I'm right, but I fear that the next Google is Google, that the next Meta is Meta. And there's plenty of room to make money for a startup. I mean, I'm not saying venture capitalists stop investing, but I'm talking about the next trillion-dollar company. I'm talking about the next Google, Meta, Microsoft, Apple. Kind of the giants. So there's plenty of room to do apps and do a million interesting things. But if we're talking about kind of those